These old buildings do not belong to us only. They belong to our forefathers, and they will belong to our descendants unless we play them false. They are not in any sense our own property. We are only trustees for those that come after us. Here's Operation Barn Move, September 2012. The work started the Tuesday after Labor Day. The actual physical work started the Tuesday after Labor Day, first week of September, end of summer. And the barn is a rafter construction barn built in the 1930s when my dad was just a boy. His mother, Alice Philip Maxwell, and father, Marion Maxwell, that would be Grandpa and Grandma, resided here, as did their children. Philip Maxwell, my dad, the eldest, Mary Alice Maxwell Dolliver, the middle child, who currently lives in Boone Grove, and John Maxwell, the youngest, who regretfully passed a few years ago. It was a working farm, originally a dairy farm, and then later it was used to house beef cattle and pigs. We spent a lot of 4-H hours there brushing and wetting down. On the north end of the barn and on the south end of the barn, as I remember it, were where the sows had their babies. The barn is about 56 feet long and roughly 36 feet wide. She stands about 35 foot to the top of the roof before the vents, and she'll pick up another foot in headspace on the first floor once set down on the new foundation. There's a dream team working on the move. The Dillabaws they're a 6th generation family operated business that moves buildings impeccably and have done so since the 1800s. Back in the 70s, Dan Dillabaugh, who now runs the operation along with his sons, moved the little house that my dad, aunt, and uncle grew up in, and my brother, my sister Sherry, and younger brother Mark grew up in until around 1976-77, I want to say, at which point Dad didn't want to tear down the house, so that moved to an alternate location and is lovely under new ownership today, and dug a new basement, placed a new foundation, and built a new house in the original home spot. So it's a bit of a family tradition. We use the Dillabaws to do that. The late Mr. Dillabaugh did it, and Dan, his son, was about 20 at the time. He's the chief orchestrator of the building Barn Milk House move here from 9 South State Road 49 to what we lovingly refer to as Bell's Pasture, which is just a beautiful piece of natural, mostly wetlands, untouched by human hands for the most part, with some of my brother's cows on it, pasture. Some of my fondest memories as a child were going to check the cows with Dad in the red truck on Bell's, and our last outing just prior to his 65th birthday in 1999 was to go check the cows on Bell's pasture, but that time I drove the red truck and he rode along. So there are very fond memories of both 9 South State Road 49, the original homestead, and Bell's pasture, just about 3/4 of a mile south on the west side of State Road 49. The barn was built in the 30s, rafter construction, about 56 feet by 35 feet wide. It weighs roughly 700 tons. And John Sandberg, the very wonderful, entrepreneurial, helpful foundation man, measured with great precision to make sure that the new foundation was exact. And the barn is perfectly square with the exception of the pitches off just about an inch in one corner. So for her age, it just proves to the fact that it's a good old barn. the construction is of pine, and the little milk house that where the milk would have been stored is also going. It's a concrete block construction. It's been covered with ivy for years. That had to be removed, unfortunately, but we'll try to grow ivy to cover her walls again. And immediately next to it, the windmill, which stands, I was informed today, I think it's about 40 foot tall. It has an 8-foot, the thing that spins. You know what I'm talking. The thing that spins around, or the fan on the top, for lack of a better term, and is about 10 feet in diameter at its base. This outlines the whole process of lifting the barn, getting the metal poles through it, the complex process conducted by the Dillabaws before it's set onto wheels and transported to its new home. The barn was built by the Bowers, and the individuals from the Bowers, Paul Bowers, still living, and he served as the electrician on this project. He used to work on our family farm with my dad, and his grandfather, father, and uncle were the gentlemen who built the barn in the 1930s. His grandfather, Anthony, passed on in the early 50s. His dad, Gordon, was born in 1917 and is now deceased, and his Uncle Bennett built the barn, and having washed and cleaned out the barn with my wonderful nephews, future Minnie Maxwells, Cody and Caden, it's painstaking to look at the number of nails and the little tongue and groove pieces of wood so perfectly placed and intact inside the barn. The reason for moving the barn is that State Road 49 has become a highly trafficked state highway, and it's no longer a working farm, given that my sister Sherry and her husband Ron have their own homestead with functional buildings that they utilize, and my younger brother Mark has done the same in a nearby neighboring location. So this used to be the Central 9 South State Road 49, or Rural Route 3, as it was marked in the opening picture, which was circa 1956, of the Alice Maxwell farm. That would have been my grandmother. She lost her husband, my grandpa, my dad's dad, at the age of 49. And she successfully raised 3 children here. The little house is marked it's on the homestead in the original picture. So there stands the barn. The grain house has since gone, but the other buildings basically remain standing. We're just doing a little relocating to a more remote, really idyllic, peaceful setting, so that the Maxwell farm buildings can enjoy a second chance at life and don't run the risk of getting destroyed based on the light industrial movement in this direction and the amount of traffic and the fact that they don't get used. When Dad was passing, one of his final wishes were keep the barn up, keep it white, or take it down, but don't let it go. And Mom painted it shortly after he passed on in Christmas of '99, and then the hail came and the paint bounces right off of it. So we're going to protect that precious wood and put white siding on it. Maintenance free is really not restoration, but the original wood will be under it, so that if future generations want to pull that siding off and go for it, that would be just great. But I certainly hope that these buildings will last for centuries longer, and we'll sit back there for all of the passersby to enjoy a slice of America that's not extinct, but headed in that direction. The barn is a beautiful, symbolic piece of American history, and the people who came here. It really represents the American dream. The dream team that's worked diligently and been so enthusiastic, passionate about the project, again, is Dillabaugh Inc., the Dillabaugh family, 6th generation business. They've never lost a building since moving them in the 1800s. Let's just hope that tomorrow this isn't the first. Just kidding. John Sandberg was a really patient consultant, a wise advisor, a passionate craftsman, and he laid the perfect foundation upon which she'll sit. Jack Stark has done the excavation for the new work, for the new site. Bill Mish has done the excavation at the home place, taking down old buildings that have become a bit dilapidated, that aren't going to, or pieces that were connected to the barn and whatnot that don't have a place at the new site. Let's see. It's been a lot of work. I'm kind of tired. O'Connor Builders. Ron O'Connor and family, home builders, fine home builders, are going to be doing the doors, siding, and just getting her beautiful for her next century. Bob Kaufman has set up the tubes and the drainage system for the base of the barn. Newland Concrete will be laying the floor once she's set down. He'll pour under. Paul Bauer has been the electrician, which is really neat, being that his forefathers built the barn. He was actually my history teacher and a coach when I was back in school. That's many, many years back, obviously. And of course the utilities companies had to be called into play. But I consider the group to be the dream team. And I couldn't be more delighted to work with a group of family-operated entrepreneurs that do such great work, that give back to the community, and that have shared in my passion for the project, as well as the understanding, support, and diligent help of my own family.